My whole life was weight. That's it. I wasn't just Anya, the powerlifter. I was powerlifting. People see the trophies, the world records, but they don't see the 4 a.m. alarms. They don't smell the chalk and the sweat and the iron. That was my home, the gym. My world was simple. It was pure. You either lift the weight or you don't. You control the bar or it controls you. I always controlled the bar. My childhood, let's just say it was loud. A lot of shouting, a lot of things breaking. You never knew what was next. Control wasn't a thing. I learned pretty fast that the only thing in the entire world you could really, truly control was yourself, your own body. So I did. The gym wasn't just a place. It was the anti-chaos. It was quiet, except for the sounds I made. The clang of the bar, the hiss of my breath, the sound of the plates sliding onto the bar. I decided when the weight went up. I decided when it came down. No one else. I didn't have friends. Not really. Friends are variables. They want things. They mess up your schedule. They're soft. I had the bar. The bar never lies. It never asks you how you're feeling. It's just heavy. And you either lift it or you don't. Simple. I lived by the numbers. 250 kilos on the squat, 150 on the bench, 280 on the deadlift. Those weren't just personal bests. They were my identity. Every meal was weighed. Every hour of sleep was logged. Discipline wasn't a choice. It was air. It was how I breathed. It was the only thing that ever made sense. It was the only thing that kept the chaos out. My body wasn't just a body. It was a fortress I built, rep by rep. Every muscle was a stone I put in place. Every kilo added was another layer on the wall. My goal? Simple. Stay on top. Be unbeatable. I was training for the Arnolds, the big one. I was going to break the all-time world record, cement my name in the books forever. That was the plan. That was the only plan. Nothing else mattered. Not people, not feelings, not anything. Just the plan, just the work, just the weight. But here's the thing about plans. Here's the thing about fortresses. They can break. It wasn't even a max out lift. It was a warm-up, a routine 220 kilo squat. I'd done it 1,000 times. I unracked it, felt the familiar bite of the knurling on my traps. I took my steps back, breathed, dropped. But something just went. It wasn't a tear. It was a snap, a sound, deep inside my back, like a thick, old branch finally breaking. Then, nothing. I didn't feel the weight crash down on me. I didn't feel the safety bars catch it. I just felt cold and a terrible, buzzing silence. I was on the floor, staring at the fluorescent lights of the gym, my home, and I couldn't feel my legs. I hated that hospital. It smelled wrong. Bleach and sickness. Everything was soft. The bed, the food, the nurses' voices. I hated soft. I liked iron. I liked the smell of chalk. You know what's really terrifying? It's not the pain. Oh, the pain came later, don't worry. No, the real terror was the nothing. I spent my entire life, 28 years, mastering every single muscle, every nerve. I could tell you the difference between my left quad and my right. And in 1 second, from the waist down, I was just gone. A passenger in a broken shell. My fortress was in ruins, and I was trapped in the rubble. The doctors used words I didn't want to hear. Severed, permanent, wheelchair. They kept talking about a new life, adaptation. Idiots. What new life? My life was over. They didn't get it. This wasn't just an injury. This was an execution. My execution. I just stared at my hands. Hands that could deadlift over 280 kilos. And now they couldn't even push a stupid button to call the nurse without shaking. That was the real horror. It's not ghosts. It's not monsters in the dark. It's being trapped inside your own body. It's being defined by weakness when your entire soul is built on strength. I'd see other people on the TV lifting my records, my weights. I felt erased. I wasn't Anya anymore. I was just this thing in a bed, this weak thing. That's when you get desperate. That's when you start listening to whispers about other options, untested methods, anything at all. It started about a week after the doctors told me to get fitted for a wheelchair. A man showed up in my room. He wasn't one of my doctors. He wore a sharp suit, not scrubs, and he had this intense calm about him. He didn't look at me with pity. He looked at me like I was a piece of high-performance machinery that just needed the right mechanic. He introduced himself as Dr. Ravi. He said he represented a private research group. He didn't use words like adaptation or recovery. He used words like regeneration and augmentation. "Your body is a fortress, Miss Kovalchuk," he said, his voice quiet. "The foundation is cracked, but the materials are still sound. We don't want to just patch the cracks. We want to reinforce the entire structure." He talked about an experimental procedure, Project 268, he called it, a way to bypass the body's normal, slow, and often incomplete healing process, a biomechanical solution. He said my discipline, my muscle density, made me the perfect candidate. He was selling me control, my own control, just better. Was it sketchy? Hell yes. It was so far off the books, it wasn't even in the same library. He had me transferred in an unmarked van in the middle of the night to a clinic that looked more like a high-tech spa than a hospital. It was silent, too clean. I didn't care. Desperate doesn't begin to cover it. I would have made a deal with the devil himself to feel my legs again. I signed the paperwork. I didn't even read it. Control was on the other side. That's all I cared about. The procedure was a joke. Or so I thought. No major surgery, just a series of injections deep into my spine, right at the break. The fluid was thick and cold, like injecting liquid ice into my bones. That night, back in my private room, the first thing happened. It started as an itch, a deep, internal itch right in the spot where my spine was shattered, an itch where no feeling was supposed to exist. Then, it wasn't an itch. It was a crawl. You know that feeling when your foot falls asleep? That pins and needles static? It was nothing like that. This was a slow, deliberate movement, like a worm wriggling its way through wet earth. It was deep inside my spinal column, right where the nerves were severed. It wasn't just healing. It felt intelligent, like it was mapping me out, building something. I held my breath. I was terrified to move, terrified to even breathe. And then I felt it, a twitch in my left big toe. I burst out crying, right? Relief? Joy? No, I just felt cold. Because the twitch was followed by another wriggling, coiling sensation, this time in my quad. And that feeling, it wasn't me. It wasn't my muscle firing. It felt like something else, something inside me, moving me. I fumbled for the call button, my hands shaking. I needed a nurse. I needed to see my back. The nurse helped me sit up and turn, holding a hand mirror so I could see the injection sites. The skin wasn't red or swollen. It was perfect. Too perfect. The puncture marks were already gone. But under the skin, it looked wrong. It wasn't the purple and yellow of a deep bruise. It was a web of tiny, dark lines, almost black, spreading out from my spine like frost on the window. As I watched, I swear to God, one of the lines pulsed, like a tiny black heart. I told myself it was just nerves regenerating. That's what Ravi had promised, right? Regeneration. This is what it felt like. This was the price. I could accept it. The next few weeks were a blur. I was healing at a speed the regular doctors called impossible. First, I could feel my legs. Then I could move them. Within a month, I was walking. Dr. Ravi would visit, ask me how I felt. I'd say strong. He just smiled, like an engineer admiring his work. He said I was exceeding all projections. The crawling, writhing feeling never stopped. It just spread. It was in my legs, my core, my shoulders. When I walked, I could feel it, helping, like an extra set of muscles under my own. And the dark filaments spread with it. They looked like veins, but they were too dark. And they moved. I just wore long sleeves. I told myself it was fine, because I wasn't just healing, I was getting strong. I went back to my gym, my real home. I had to know. It was 2 a.m. The place was empty, just the smell of chalk and cold iron. I loaded 60 kilos onto the bar, a weight that, before the accident, was less than my warm-up. I stood over the bar. I could feel the things inside my legs, coiling, tight, like wound-up springs. I felt eager. It was a new feeling, a hungry feeling. I pulled. The weight didn't just feel light. It felt like nothing. It felt like I was lifting a plastic pipe. A rush, hotter and brighter than any pre-workout, flooded my brain. It was euphoric. It was power. I loaded 100 kilos, then 140, then 200. I kept going. I pulled 300 kilos, more than my all-time record, and it was easy. My lungs weren't even burning. I wasn't even out of breath. I was sweating, my heart pounding. I looked up into the huge mirror that ran along the wall, and I saw it. The things weren't just under my skin anymore. In the harsh fluorescent light, I could see them. They were on my muscles, dark, glistening, biomechanical threads woven into my own tissue. As I tensed, they tensed. They pulsed with a rhythm that wasn't my heartbeat. They were contracting, helping me, making me stronger. This was what Dr. Ravi meant. Reinforce the entire structure. This was my new fortress. Better than the old one. Stronger. I looked at this monster in the mirror, this web of alien wires wrapped around my muscles, and I smiled. I was strong again. I was unbeatable. That smile in the mirror, that was the end of me, the real me. I didn't just go back to training, I attacked it. The euphoria I felt was an addiction. The crawling inside me wasn't a secret terror anymore. It was a partner. I stopped tracking my old numbers. They were meaningless. Every day I was stronger. The parasite, I knew that's what it was. I wasn't stupid. It rewarded me for pushing. The harder I worked, the more it gave. And it wanted something. I could feel it. It was hungry. It didn't want protein shakes and chicken breast. It craved the strain. It craved the attention. It wanted me to show it off. It wasn't enough to be strong in an empty gym at 2 a.m. It wanted an audience. So I did. I signed up for the Nationals. My miracle recovery story was everywhere. The comeback kid. The competition floor was just as I remembered. Bright lights, the smell of chalk, the roar of the crowd. But it all felt distant, muffled. The only thing that felt real was the thing coiling in my back, tight and hot, and the cold, heavy iron of the bar. I sailed through my first 2 deadlifts, 270 kilos, 290, easy. The judges looked confused. My old coach, Stefan, was in the crowd. He wasn't cheering. His face was pale. He knew. He knew that wasn't human strength. He knew I wasn't me. He knew discipline and hard work didn't look like that. Then came the final lift, the world record, 310 kilos, a weight no woman had ever pulled. I stepped up to the bar. I could feel the cameras on me, the hush from the crowd. They were all waiting for the miracle. They had no idea. I reached down, my hands gripping the knurling, and the thing inside me, it surged. It wasn't waiting for my command. It wasn't helping anymore. It was taking over. I felt a cold jolt, like electricity, and suddenly my arms felt like they belonged to someone else. I pulled, but it wasn't me pulling. It was the parasite. There was a sound, not a snap like before. This was a wet, thick, tearing sound, like canvas ripping. It came from me, from everywhere. My back, my arms, my legs. The crowd screamed. It wasn't a cheer. It was terror. I looked down. The black filaments, the biomechanical threads, they weren't under my skin anymore. They had burst through. My skin suit was ripping. My skin was splitting open as this living armor assembled itself over my body. They were wrapped around my arms, my shoulders, digging into my own muscle, glistening under the lights. It wasn't reinforcing my spine. It was my spine. It was my muscles. I could feel my bones shifting, grinding, dense and hard as stone, but they weren't my bones. The euphoria was gone. All I felt was a cold, alien control. I was the passenger now. The fortress hadn't been reinforced. It had been conquered. The original owner was locked in the dungeon. The weight? 310 kilos? It flew up. It felt like paper. I stood there, holding the record-breaking weight, a monster in the spotlight. I saw the faces in the front row. Stefan, he was backing away, his hand over his mouth. The horror, the disgust. I tried to let go of the bar. I tried to drop it. I couldn't. My hands wouldn't obey me. The parasite held the weight, showing off its new vessel. I tried to scream, but all that came out was a low, rattling hiss that wasn't human. I was trapped. This was it. My absolute deepest fear. It wasn't the wheelchair. It wasn't being broken. It was this total, complete loss of control. My body, the fortress I'd spent my life building, was just a cage, and something else was wearing it. With a force that wasn't mine, my new body threw the barbell, threw it. It crashed into the judge's table, splintering it. People were running, stampeding for the exits. I didn't run. I just walked. Right off the platform, through the chaos, and out the emergency exit. No one tried to stop me. You don't try to stop a monster. I'm sitting in an alley now. It's raining. The water is cold, but I barely feel it. It just hits my skin and rolls off. I can hear sirens, far away. They're for me, for what I did. What it did. I can see my reflection in a puddle. It's dark, but I can see. The things have retracted, mostly. It was a horrible feeling, like snakes sliding backward into their holes, pulling my skin with them. They've burrowed back under my skin, but the skin is ruined. It's not skin anymore. It's a roadmap of black, pulsating scars. Even in the dark, I can see them glowing faintly. I'm strong. I'm stronger than any human on Earth. I am a walking world record. I could punch through the brick wall I'm leaning against. I could probably lift the dumpster next to me. The thought just sits there. It's not my thought. It's an impulse, a suggestion from it. But I'm not Anya. Anya was the one who logged her meals. Anya was the one who was afraid of failing. Anya was the one who built the fortress. I'm just the shell. I'm the fortress. But someone else is living inside. Someone else is looking out through my eyes. What now? Do I find Dr. Ravi? Do I tear that clean, silent clinic apart? I try to feel angry. I try to feel anything, but it's hard. The parasite, it's quiet. It's sated. It got to show off. It's just waiting, coiled up in my spine, wrapped around my heart. It's listening to me think. It knows what I'm afraid of. It doesn't care. I spent my whole life afraid of being weak, trapped in a broken body, afraid of the chaos I couldn't control. I got my wish. I'm not broken. I'm not weak. I'm just not me. I'm a cage. I'm a machine. And the thing that moves me is hungry. It's always going to be hungry. I was so obsessed with carrying the weight of the world, I never stopped to think about what would happen if something else, Something stronger decided to carry me. Now I know. It just carries you wherever it wants to go.
There are more scares to share. Press the like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single terrifying moment. You're helping me investigate the deepest, darkest corners to bring you stories that haunt your dreams.